A federal court denied the request to overturn the death penalty conviction for the sole woman on Tennessee's death row. 2 decades ago, a jury convicted Krista Gale Pike for the murder of Colleen Slemmer in Knoxville. Investigators say Pike stabbed Slemmer 300 times, bashed her head in, and then kept part of her skull. WBIR 10 News reporter Rachel Wittel shows us how guarding death row inmates impacts taxpayers. Rachel?
John, the state has not executed a prisoner since 2009. Lawmakers and legal experts question whether the time to prosecute those cases is worth the cost, and if it puts the future of the death penalty at risk.
It was the kind of case, I think, really that the death penalty was intended for.
On death row for 2 decades, Krista Gale Pike's request to overturn her conviction failed.
I don't want.
And her case raises a series of questions about the effectiveness of the death penalty.
It's costing $600,000 in legal fees before we even get to execution. It's taking not years, but decades before we get to that point. And there's also some concern about innocent people being executed.
There are issues that develop daily in these cases.
Tennessee has 67 inmates on death row, some there for decades, but no executions in almost 7 years. And defense lawyer Don Bosch says, in addition to lengthy appeals, factor in the cost to taxpayers.
From a fiscal responsibility standpoint, it is wise to look at it and go, is the death penalty worth imposing based on the cost alone when we can house somebody in prison for the entirety of their lives if in fact they've committed the crime for which they're convicted?
A third problem involves recent concerns about the drugs used in executions.
The courts have generally ruled that it is okay to use one drug so long as you can show that it's not cruel and inhumane in terms of the methodology.
And within the year, Bosch says prisoners like Pike could avoid the death penalty altogether.
With the death of Justice Scalia and the possible appointment of a justice that will be more pro-life versus pro-death penalty, there's a good chance that in a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court could again deem the death penalty unconstitutional.
Pike previously drained all her state appeals. Her next step is to appeal to the Court of Appeals in Ohio. If denied there, she could ask the U.S. Supreme Court to hear her case. John?